Welcome back. This is my fifth journey on the interdimensional scale, my great awakening, which wasn't so great at the time because it was scary stuff. Anyway, the next day, my eyes were not yellow, although I still had vibrations in the core and a strange heat swelling in my arms. I tried to get a grip on reality. Once again, I was keeping busy with my daughter and functioning as a mother. That night, I repeated what I had done the night before, only this time, when I was zapped out of my body, I was suspended in space. In front of me, I could see light dust spinning and coming together until it resembled a huge, star dust male, looking something like a Roman or Greek god. He took my hand and began to run through space and time, reaching immense speeds. He turned into a sphere, although I could still see his face within, and was still attached. When he slowed down, we began to descend to a gathering of people who were all praying. Then, from the sky came a giant male on a carriage, soaring through the clouds towards the people. He was bellowing something in a strange language, looking like an African god, wearing a headdress, holding a spear as he pulled on the reins of the carriage. Slowly, the galloping mythological horses slowed down. Next, I am zapped back into my body, and the same happened as the night before. I was thrown backwards on the floor, and the second shadow left from the same exit point. The next night, I performed the same as before, only this time whilst vomiting, I vomited a seed pod that had begun to root, and the roots had grown quite about a centimetre or so. I found this bizarre. This time, when I went out there, I was suspended in space yet again, looking at something in the distance, gracefully floating towards me. It was a being. It was a universal being with a large energy cape of light rippling through. He came right up to my face and looked at me with wonder. I can only say his features were oriental and his hair long, although it wasn't hair, it was made of stardust kind of stuff. It's very difficult to explain. He examined my face and then gracefully floated back into space. Then something else came towards me from the distance, only this moved very quickly in a meandering way. It was a universal millipede. Silver light ripples moved throughout its form. It did the same and came right up to my face and examined me. Then, suddenly, I was observing a blue alien female who had dark blue veins running throughout. Her skull was very kind of like pointed at the back, and she didn't have hair. Then zap, I was back in my body again and thrown backwards onto the floor as I watched the third shadow come from the same exit point and fly off into the distance. The next night, I did the same again, although this time nothing happened. I wasn't sick and I didn't zap out of my body. I had cleansed what was inside me, although My reality was never the same again. That weekend during the summer holidays, I'd arranged to go to Gulliver's World with the neighbour over the road, one of the single mothers who was also visited by the gypsy lady earlier on in my story. Her daughter was the same age as my daughter. I asked my friend Claire if she would come along with her daughter Natasha, who was also the same age. They were all the same age. I was still having difficulty keeping a grip on reality. Thankfully, Claire and her daughter accompanied. It was strange because I began to see flashes of dimensions where I observed a very large tiger walking towards over the road. Then in a flash, it was gone. It was almost like the two realities, two dimensions coming together. And it was very difficult to cope with at that time. It was a sunny, hot day, and we'd set off to Gulliver's World. Whilst there, a helicopter flew onto the field. I assumed it was dropping rich clients to the amusement park, and as we walked, I began to smile, trying to keep a grip on reality. I was seeing tribes, African, Indian, American, Middle Eastern, otherworldly. I was still trying to be as normal as possible. However, my reality was melting away. We took the girls to the spinning teacups, and my neighbour's daughter began to act very bizarre. She began to laugh frantically with a possessed look in her eye. Then she would be crying. Then she would be laughing. Then she would be crying again until the ride stopped. As the day drew close to a close, I noticed some of the tribes watching me and discussing to one another. We'd been around the theme park once and we're on our second round with about 10 to 15 minutes left before closing. As we walked past the gold mine, which had been closed all day, it was now mysteriously open. We approached the male standing behind the counter, and he spoke in an American accent, saying, "We're going to buy the property." As we walked away, I said to Claire, I felt as if I had just been sold. It was a very strange day, and I was ready to seek the comfort of the tiny flat I lived in. I just wanted to lock the world out and hopefully have some kind of normality. That night, I needed a bottle of wine to help me sleep, although my dream time empirical journey was about to kick off to such a level there's not a word to describe it. I liken it to being connected to such a great degree of knowledge, experiences of millions, possibly trillions of things, and it would take a very long time to go into them all. That night, I was accessing intergalactic mapping systems, downloading, uploading, sifting through the maps at warp speed. I don't know the purpose or what the function was of me having this dreamtime experience. Night after night was filled with variable experiences, lessons, going in and out of dimensions, time, space, completing missions, transporting souls. I remember hovering over a dying nun as the priest and several other nuns stood around her bed. I'm floating above her, all in white, waiting for her to pass so I could take her. Where, I really can't remember. I just know I was hovering over her, and that happened with more people for a period of time and then stopped.